What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this video, super excited to share this lab with you from Pwned Labs called Phished for Initial Access. Now, full disclosure, often when I go through labs or CTFs, I go through them completely blind, and I'm sharing with you like my fully blind approach to it. I do want to let you know I did work through this lab ahead of time, and I followed like the official walkthrough because, to be honest, I'm not as elite as some of you, and this is an Azure lab. At least it's really cool. We're going to do some legit email phishing. We're going to steal some hashes with Responder. We're going to create a virtual machine in Azure with a public IP to make it even more realistic. It's a really cool lab, but it was like way out of my skill zone, way above my skill level. So I'm actually going to give myself this challenge. I worked through the lab before by following the guide, and I want to try to do it now without looking at the guide and kind of stumbling my way through it, looking up the tools that I need, maybe figuring out alternative ways of doing it. So although I have done this lab before, I'm going to try to do it without looking at any notes and just see if we can work through this together, and would love your help. The cool thing about live streaming, I don't know if you're watching this fact after YouTube, you can't really help me, but for those of you watching me live, would love to work through this together. Now, I will say this is a premium lab on Pwned Labs, so you do need a premium subscription, which if you don't have one, what are you waiting for? It's $20 a month, well worth your money and your time. But hey, even without a sub, you still have access to a little over 30 free labs that cover Azure, AWS, and GCP on Pwned Labs. But this is a premium lab, so if you don't have a subscription, you have to do it alongside of me by watching me on your screen. But we will stumble through this together, we'll learn together, and we'll see how we do. I do want to apologize. I have some type of weird cold sore throat, so I'm going to try not to like cough into my microphone, but if I do, I'm sorry. I'm sorry ahead of time. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Here is the lab, and now this is a brand new lab, I believe just released today, and I may have gotten first blood on it when I was going through it, but Phished for Initial Access, and our entry point is we're just given a target user. So let's go ahead and read through the scenario, and then we'll start setting up our notes shortly after that. So here's the scenario. On a red team engagement for our client, Mega Big Tech, our team, which is the Hack Smarter team, has been asked to simulate opportunistic threat actors. In scope, which this is important, if you ever do pen testing, make sure you're only attacking things that are in scope and you pay attention to this. I know if you're used to CTFs, you don't even think about this, but when you become a pen tester, at the beginning of every engagement, you have a pretty detailed document that tells you here's what is in scope, here is what is out of scope. And friends, what separates pen testers from illegal hackers is we pay attention to scope, right? So always pay attention to that as you begin pen testing. But what is in scope is the on-prem and Azure cloud infrastructure, and phishing is also permitted. So we can do a little bit of social engineering, and we are. And this is like real phishing. We're legit going to send an email like with my Gmail account to a target email, and we're going to see if we can phish someone. They have recently hardened their perimeter in terms of publicly accessible services. Can you show them that there are other ways in? Well, I am hoping so. We have some learning outcomes, and we'll kind of use this is our roadmap, right? Because it gives us some idea of what we need to do. But let's go ahead and get our notes pulled up. And as usual for this VM, I bet it's going to reset my cherry tree settings because it does it. Yep, it does it every time. Only in this VM, and every time I open cherry tree, everything is reset. Let me go ahead and fix my preferences like I always do. This is just like the introduction to the stream is watching Tyler forget where everything is in cherry tree to fix my preferences. Let me change my code font. We'll change this to we'll change that to 14, and we need to change our format, or what is it, theme, to dark background light text. That is what I like. Okay, and we'll start a new node here, and we will call it whatever the lab's called. Phished for Initial Access. Phished for Initial Access. And let's go ahead and do our target user. So our target user is this person right here. And let's type our scenario/scope. And our scenario/scope is right here. Oops. Okay, and we'll go ahead and make these H1 just so they're a little bit easier to see. So we know phishing is permitted and on scope is on-prem in Azure. So everything except for, I guess, AWS and GCP or DigitalOcean, but their Azure infrastructure, their on-prem infrastructure is all in scope. We want to keep that in mind. And we begin with a target user. And let's go ahead and just type in like our learning goals, because this will help for those of you like me who are new to this. The learning goals will help you kind of stumble your way through it without looking at the full walkthrough. So we'll just jot these down, like here is the purpose of this lab, here's what we want to learn, and we'll go ahead and put those in there. So we can see kind of our first goal. If we approach this more like I think about Try Hack Me or even Hack the Box as the guided mode. I use these learning goals almost as a guided mode as we're learning this. So we can see goal number 1 is to leak NTLM hashes to gain user credentials and also identify valid users and credentials using O365 User Finder. And really, we have a few things we need to do, right? For initial access, I'm thinking this, initial access, confirm the domain, and it says mega big tech right there. And doing previous Pwned labs, we can kind of guess it's probably megabigtech.com, but we can confirm that once we check some tools. And then we also have to figure out Sam's email, right? Our user's right there. We need to figure out her or his email and a valid email to see if we can send them an email and successfully phish them. At least that is the goal. So first one is confirming the domain. And a lot of the tools that you use for Azure, let me pull it up on here, you'll go back and forth between Linux and Windows. Here is a Windows VM. I'm actually running this on another computer because my host computer right here only has 16 gigs of RAM. And if I try to run Kali and OBS and stream and run a Windows VM, everything melts. So I actually have, I call it the Tyler Cloud. I have this Windows VM running on another computer on my local network, and then I RDP into it via the Tyler Cloud, so it's not taking my host OS's resources. But what you'll notice when you start digging into Azure is some tools for Azure either only work or simply work a lot better in a Windows environment using PowerShell on Windows. Now, I know Kali has its own version of PowerShell, but trust me when I say there are certain things that just do not work in Kali or Linux's version of PowerShell, at least from my experience. So when you're working on Azure pen testing, either for a job or for a CTF, I would highly recommend having a Windows VM that you can jump back and forth between, which is what we are going to be doing here. But our first goal is to enumerate users, and we go ahead and do some research here. So we'll type in like Azure pen test enumerate users, and let's see if we can figure this out together. So Azure pen test red teaming methodology. We're going to do some phishing, of course, which common phishing, credentials are OAuth app, Azure password spraying, basic enumeration, which I think AAD internals is what's coming to mind for me, if I remember correctly. You might be able to use road recon, but that wouldn't really help us enumerate stuff. Let's look through these. Azure Hound, once again, not going to let us do too much unauthenticated enumeration, which is what we want to do. Microburst might be helpful, though. Let me check out Microburst. So Microburst, a PowerShell toolkit for attacking Azure. It includes functions and scripts to support Azure Service Discovery, weak configuration auditing, post-exploitation actions such as credential dumping. It's intended to be used during penetration tests where Azure is in use. And if we look at our learning goals here, here's the tool it recommends in the official walkthrough. But I thought, let's see if we can find some alternative ways of doing it, because I think it's always good as a pen tester, as an ethical hacker, to be able to do the same thing in multiple ways, because when you're doing an engagement for a client or even a CTF, the tool you always rely on is just not going to work, because that's how life works, and you have to have these backup plans. So I always try to look at the official way of doing it and then figure out, okay, what are some other ways that I can do this? I think we have, let's look at the Microburst wiki real quick. I already have this installed. So authenticating, we're not going to authenticate because we don't have a password yet. But let's see, what can we all do? So get AZ domain info. For services in Azure. Let's go ahead and give this a shot and see if we can target our megabigtech.com domain. So we're going to open up PowerShell. We'll run it as administrator, and we'll go over to desktop, And I believe I have tools here, which I do. Beautiful. And I'll go ahead and make this text a little bit bigger for you all. Let's go to font. And how about that? All right. So we have our tools here, and I see my microburst folder right there. So I'll cd to microburst, clear, dir here, and we'll import module microburst. And if I remember right, this always takes a couple of minutes. So while it does that, we can look at some more documentation on what we can do with microburst. So this will collect configurations and general information. Is there any username enumeration for microburst? So we have this. Miscellaneous, invoke Azure blobs, enumerate Azure subdomains, owner persist. You know, I'm thinking AAD internals might be better. Let me show you AAD internals. And I believe with this, we can do some pretty decent unauthenticated enumeration. But once again, I'm going off memory. And so we'll see if I am right here. So get tenant and manipulate functions. Get tenant details, access access tokens. How about like users? Well, I don't think that's what we want. MFA manipulation. Maybe I will end up using the recommended tool. Let's do enumerate users in Azure. Hacking the cloud. We'll check out a few of these things. You can enumerate valid email addresses associated with Azure Active Directory using services like CrudMaster or Quiet Riot. These addresses can be used for password spraying attacks, a technique where an attacker attempts to authenticate against multiple accounts, blah, blah, blah. So let's check out some of these tools. And it looks like last updated 3 weeks ago via Amazon AWS pass-through proxies, shifting the requesting IP address for every authentication attempt. Oh, that's actually pretty dang cool. Rotates the requesting IP, automatically generates, okay. And we really just want to see if the account is valid. That might be an overkill for what we need to do. Let's check out Quiet Riot, which I've heard of. Root email, users and roles, Azure Active Directory users, and Google Workspace. Okay. First step is to have sufficient AWS creds, blah, blah. We're not using AWS, so we're using Azure. You know what? Although we might be able to figure out these other ways, let's check out this tool it recommends. So this geez, I can't. You don't want to copy that? We'll go like that. Let's check out this tool. Maybe I should just go with what it recommends and see how this tool works, because honestly, these other tools, like, they might do it, but they seem overly complicated for what would be rather simple. And I suppose you could honestly just use the Azure Council maybe as well to do some basic enumeration. So O365 User Finder. O365 User Finder is used for identifying valid O365 accounts and domains without the risk of account lockouts, which that's important, right? Especially if you're doing a pen test, you don't want to lock out every account. The tool parses responses to identify the if exists results flag is null or not, and responds appropriately if the user is valid. The tool will attempt to identify false positives based on response and either automatically create a waiting period to allow the throttling value to reset or warn the user to increase timeouts between attempts. It can also identify if a domain exists. Oh, so that's the other thing we want to confirm, that megabigtech.com is a domain name we want to target. This saves the trouble of copying the URL from notes and entering the URL bar at the target domain. All right, well, let's go ahead and give this a shot. I think we can do this directly in Linux as well. Let's change this to Remina. I can't type. We'll just call RDP there. And we'll call this terminal, cd Pwned labs, and make directory. We'll just call it phishing. And we will git clone that. Okay, and now what we want to do is install the requirements file. So we'll do pip3 install-r requirements. You can see when I've done it for other packages, this will install the necessary requirements for this. I think we're okay. Python 3. Okay, sweet. So we have that. So first, let's see if we can validate a domain name in O365. So we'll do that. And the domain is megabigtech.com. Okay. So it does exist. Let's go ahead and grab that for our notes. Because if you're doing an actual pen test, you want to take good notes. So we'll grab a picture of the command we ran and that the domain does exist. Right? So here's our command. Here is proof that the megabigtech.com domain exists. We'll go ahead and copy that. And for now, we'll just drop it in our main notes right there. And now we need to figure out the Sam's email, right? Sam Olson. I just think about my own emails. Like every place I've worked, it's always been, you can take your name. And my always first guess is this. Whenever I'm guessing someone's email, first name dot last name, and then at the domain. So I'm just going to guess here, but there's tools that can create a bunch of usernames, and we can see if we can find some of those tools. But how do we see if an email is valid? So validate a single email, we run it, and then -e is the flag we're looking for. So we'll do -e, and we'll use that person's email. Okay. Valid email found. Beautiful. Let's go and grab a screenshot of that. But if you tried something else, I'll show you some ways that you can generate different emails with a user's name. Because it could have been like some orgs use, first initial, then last name and things like that. Let me go ahead and copy that. And we will drop this here. Do you find doing these improves your hacking skills? By YN? Yeah, that's why I do them. Now, to be clear, I'm a pen tester. Like, I like to use the word hacking, but it does have bad connotations, y'all. I don't break the law ever. I am fully ethical white hat hacker. So the stuff you learn from me, please don't use in malicious ways. But we have that. Now, if we did not know the email, there's some things that can create different usernames. I'll just see if I can even find one by Googling. So like username generator GitHub. Simple based on it. So something like this would work just fine. Right? So simple username generator based on a list of name and surname. Anything like this, if you run this without, okay, so we'll even just try it, right? Even though I have the username, let's just do this for a POC. CD to username generator. And let's just see if I do, whoops. So give it a user file. So we'll just call it nano user.txt and Sam, is that the name? With 2 S's, right? Sam Olson. Okay. So give it a user file. So we'll call it user.txt. And our output is sam.txt. All right, so you can see it created all these usernames. We would just append at megabigtech.com. You could do a simple bash script to do that. But you can see if we did this, we'd be able to find it this way as well because we see sam.olson, which is the correct email. So if you didn't guess it kind of on your first attempt, which like I said, first name dot last name is always what I guess when going for a valid email. If you didn't do that, you could also find it that way. But we do have our valid email. And let me go to Cherry Tree here, and let's just type it out. So our valid email, sam.olson@megabigtech.com. All right. So now we need to do our phishing. Let me look over and make sure I'm not missing any questions. Azure Wixsec said, what is your screenshot tool? I use Greenshot. I use Lightshot, and I believe they're very similar. So there we go. And actually, I'll just show you guys. I don't know what my computer is doing. My computer's squealing at me. That's never a good sign. Hopefully you guys can't hear it. So if you were like, if we go over to our If you're not awesome at bash scripting, which I am not, I can usually stumble my way through it, but it's a lot faster to have ChatGPT do it. So is our sam.txt one. So if we didn't know how to do this, we could say, hey, write a script that will take usernames on separate lines and append mega, whoops. In a file called sam.txt. We'll see if this does it, otherwise we'll do it ourselves. But just showing the power of using AI for some of these simple things, save you some time. Why is my computer squealing though? So you can see what it's doing. We're doing with open, so it's opening sam.txt, reading each new line, and then opening output.txt. We could change that to whatever we want. That's going to be the output file. And all it's doing, for line in input file. Now this could be anything. We could say it for a name. This is whatever you want to be there. But for, oh, they did it in Python. Did I say Python? Oh, I didn't say bash. Oh, well. So this is a Python script way of doing it. But for line in input file, so read each line. And then what you want you to do is remove any leading trailing white space. You can see that. And we're just adding megabigtech.com to it. So I meant to do it a bash script. And we'll do both. Nox Lumen said, just want to stop by and say hello before getting back to OSCP study. Wish it wasn't that HR checkmark, but hey, if it gets me to the finish line, I'll do it. Hope your stream goes well tonight and hope to join again soon like last night. Have to watch the video on demand. Well, hey, Nox Lumens, thank you for hanging out. Appreciate you being here. So here's what I was thinking of. So we could actually just do it ourselves down here. You wouldn't need all this extra information. But while IFS, we're just reading the line and then we're doing something. Similar to our script above, it's going to go through each one of those lines and append it megatech. But we'll go ahead and just copy that, and I'll show you how easy it is to use ChatGPT to do something like that for those of you who might be a little bit newer. And so we can just do nano, I don't know, emails.sh. Put that in there. And then run it. Oh, cat output.txt. There you go. So now we have this whole list of names, and I bet if I copy, well, I don't even need to copy it. If I cp emails, or cp output rather, and just bring it one directory out, there it is, and cd to this, Python 3. I think there's a way to take a list of emails, validate a list of emails, write to file, and timeout between requests. Validate a list of emails. Let's just try this and see if this would have found it this way as well. So we do Python 3, that -r, and we're going to go back one directory for output.txt, and we'll just do wvalid.txt. If you did not know the username and you wanted to do it this way, I bet this will work great. Let's see if it works. There you go. So you can see it tells us if the email is invalid, but it found right away our valid email that was found. So if you didn't want to just randomly guess, hey, this is the valid email, here is another way to approach it. And there it is again, because of course it's sam.olsen. I'm going to stop that because I think you guys get the hint and how we can do that, but showing multiple ways to approach that. Now, if we step back over to our notes, we found our valid email, but if we go back up to here to our learning, we've kind of done this, but we haven't leaked the hash. Now, I think this will work. Here's going to be the very confusing part if you're following along. Usually when you do stuff like this, you are in a lab environment, which is a little less real world, but in a lab environment, usually you're on a VPN. So think about Pwned Labs as a VPN, where you use a VPN to connect to some machines. You can do try Hack Me as a VPN, Hack the Box as a VPN, but on that VPN, your IP is already connected to all the machines that you're attacking, right? Because you're on the same VPN. Well, if you're attacking someone across the internet, you are not sharing a VPN, and your personal computer does not have a public IP unless you do some crazy stuff with your router in order to open it up, which I recommend you do not do. So our challenge, if we want to attack a user across the internet, we need to create a machine that has a public IP. Now, what I've noticed even doing pen testing both in AWS and Azure is what clients will often do, what companies will often do is they'll have a list of machines and they'll whitelist or allow list certain IPs, but they'll allow list, for example, all AWS IPs or all Azure IPs. So one good thing to do is that if you're attacking infrastructure in Azure and you need to spin up a public VM with a public IP, do it in Azure so it's assigned an IP in the Azure range, and you have a better chance of getting past any firewalls or any protection that's preventing you from attacking it. So I'm going to show you how we can create a Kali Linux VM in Azure with a public IP that kind of serves as our command and control server, and we're going to run responder on that and use that in our phishing email. If it sounds complex, that's okay. Oh, Neffels, you're way better at Bash than I am. He did a quick one-liner over on Twitch chat. Yeah, which would work beautifully. And thank you for sharing. All right. Let me check LinkedIn as well, since I always have to refresh. Don't think I'm missing comments there. Nope. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Here I have my machine right here, which I've already spun up. But even if we didn't do that, let me back up. I'm going to pretend like I'm doing this from scratch, but I'm not going to actually launch it. And you can, if you start a Azure account, I believe you get $200 worth of free credit, so you can do this completely free. You don't have to pay any money. My account, I ran out of those credits, but I only run the VM when I need it, and so it's still not costing me much money. I think it's like 0.009 an hour or something. But in Azure, if this is my account, right, so this isn't part of the lab, this is my actual Azure account, because we want to spin up a VM with a public IP address in the Azure range. We will click virtual machines here, and we will go ahead and click create, and we'll create an Azure virtual machine. Gosh, what is that squealing? It's gonna drive me crazy. I don't think you guys can hear it. It's quiet enough, but there's this like high-pitched squealing coming from one of my many computers around me. I don't know which one. Our Azure subscription we can keep the same. We can call our virtual machine Kali. And a region is fine. All that is fine. Security type standard is fine. Now, when you do this initially, I think it's going to default to Ubuntu server. But if you want to do Kali, if you go ahead and click see all images here, we can actually search for Kali. And we have Kali Linux right here. And unlike some of these other ones, it doesn't cost any extra money per hour. And we would go ahead and select this. So we'll select this one right here. All that looks fine. You can run with Azure Spot Discount. It just means that, hey, if there's too much demand, yours might be evicted. But since we're just doing it for this purpose, it doesn't really matter. It might save some money in the long term. It says we need a little different configuration for this. Oh, no, it's just my subscription doesn't have enough. So if you're doing this for the first time, this shouldn't be an issue for you. It's just because I already created one on my free plan. Here, you can do an SSH public key or a password. Totally up to you, honestly, as long as you're not storing sensitive information on here. Best practice, though, is always to use an SSH key instead of a password. But mine I have set up for password for ease of use. And select inbound ports. Of course, if you want to be able to hit your machine, you need a whitelist like 22, but then you can actually whitelist down to your IP. But if we go to review and create, if it will allow me to do this, yeah, so it's not going to let me because that error that we saw before, because I already have my other VM. But here you would just review, you would create the VM, and it wouldn't take long to spin it up. And then you would have a Kali Linux VM in the cloud that has a public IP that can serve almost as your command and control server. So you have this public IP out on the internet. For now, we're going to go back to my actual virtual machines. You can see my Kali machine right here. And we are going to go ahead and boot this up. We'll hit start on it. And you can see there's my public IP. Shouldn't take too long to start up for us. And then we'll connect to it, like I said, via just SSH password authentication. The other thing that you will have to do if you're following along with this lab is you have to configure it so that it is internet facing on like everything. right? Because if you can imagine, I think it's on the networking tab. If we are running responder and we want to, oh, that didn't work. If we are running responder, maybe let's do virtual network. I can't talk and think at the same time. And we want things to hit us from the internet. We need to enable it so all of our stuff is internet facing. Geez, where is it at? I'm like blanking on this. Address space. Here, let me back out here real quick. No, that brings me back to that. Virtual network, Kali group, security type, standard, extensions, applications, blah, blah, blah. How about network settings? Here we go. Here's what I'm looking for. So what I did is I allowed any IP to hit this because once again, we need to run responder and have all these ports open. So if you haven't done this, generally just be SSH. What you do is create a port rule right here, and we'll do an inbound port rule. And our source, right, we want to do any because we want anyone to hit us from any destination. Our port ranges, we want to change to a wildcard, so like every port is open. You can see mine's going to fail because I already have a rule with this type, but any, allow, and then you would hit add. And you see these warnings, hey, these ports are open. That's fine, at least for our purposes. I'm going to hit OK because that is what we need for our C2 server out here in the internet to have every port open. So we'll go ahead and grab this IP. And I'm going to SSH as Tyler. Got that IP. Yes. And there we go. So I know it's very confusing because it says Tyler Kali and Tyler Kali, so it looks like I'm on the same machine. But actually, this machine right here is actually going to be our cloud Azure machine. Right? So I'm going to change this over to, we'll just call it our C2 server, but this is going to have a public IP on it. Open a new tab and we'll call it terminal. But this is my Kali VM right now being hosted in Azure with our public IP. And one way we can do that is if I go over to my web server, I have this index.html that says hello hackers. You guys can actually go ahead and connect to this right now if you want to. So if we do Python 3-m HTTP server http.server 80, we'll host a simple Python web server here. And if we grab this IP, this 20.62.43.254, honestly, you can go to this in your browser if you want to, but we'll just show that this is internet facing. Right? Hello hackers. This is my web server out on the internet right now. And you can see, look, so some of you are getting it. I apologize if I'm doxing your IP, but honestly, who cares? They can't do much with your public IP anyways. But you can see y'all are trying to hit my web server, and that's showing that it is internet facing. I'm going to go ahead and stop that now. But it is internet facing, this Azure VM that we just spun up. So with that, now we need to do some phishing emails. Now, like I said before, I did work ahead and go through this lab so I know kind of the format it wants. But we're going to use responder and try to get the user to open, like run on their Windows machine, and then go to a directory or an SMB share that does not exist. And we're going to try to get their NTLM response and then see if we can crack that to get their password. So what we need to do is on our C2 server, we're going to just run responder-I, and we'll do our network interface here, which, you know, we should probably do it as root since it says it won't do it without being root. So, yep, we'll go ahead and do root. So now we have responder running. So we have responder running. We have a valid email here. So let's go ahead and grab this valid email. And let's open up just my HackSmarter Gmail account. And we'll do Sam Olson. And what would be an interesting phishing email? Something that would be believable. Urgent. We'll just call it IT security update. Hello, Sam. The IT support team at megabigtech.com is requiring you to update your Excel software. Failure to do so will lead to being immediately fired. This is of urgent importance. Please do it right away. We have tried to make it really easy by hosting it locally on our network. Steps. Is it, what's the short key to open run on Windows? Is it like Control R or Windows R? Windows R. Okay, that's what I thought. Windows R. All right. Hold the Windows key and R on your keyboard. At the prompt, please go to, I think this is the right syntax. Maybe I should, I'm going to test it on my own Windows VM first, and we'll see if this is the right syntax, because we don't want to, what? I captured my own hash? Oh, you silly people. One of y'all, one of you guys watching this stream, did you just connect to this? Connect to the share that doesn't exist? If you did, that's amazing. Who in stream did that? You're the MVP. We have your NTLM v2 hash. But hey, you confirmed that it worked. I'm glad you confirmed that it is working. I love it. All right. Anyways, at the prompt, please go to, and then whatever my public IP is, whoever's in chat knows it better. Oh, you did it through the web server? That is awesome. Let me go ahead and grab my IP here. And like I said, guys, isn't this lab pretty dang cool? Like, I think it's so fun just how realistic it is. We're using Gmail and everything to send phishing emails. So there's our IP, and we'll call it update. We'll just call it update. Now, is my syntax there correct? What if I go to my Windows machine? And we do that. And then actually you can see when I was testing this before, I already did this, but this is my computer I just did that on. So that syntax is for sure working. It should capture their NTLM hash when it comes through. So hold the Windows key and R on the keyboard. At the prompt, please go to that. Update. Thanks for your attention to this very important matter. Oh, thanks for... All right. How's that look? Schedule when to send it. All right. I had some issues before in plain text mode fix it, but I think that bugginess is now fixed. We're going to just try it this way and see if it works. So we have our IP there, update, and let's go ahead and click send. Fingers crossed that this works. All right. Where are my other sent emails? What? Oh, this is from when I was messing with, I was trying to get scammers to reply to me. You can see it didn't really work though, but responding to spam email. Was wondering what that was. But all right, we sent our email to our Sam Olsen at megabigtech.com. And, y'all are still doing it. Hello, Tyler. You spelled my name wrong, though. BD said, I joined in the middle of it. Is this going to be a YouTube video? Yes, this will be a YouTube video. So, yeah, if you miss anything, don't worry. While chat is spamming my responder server. Oh, no. So, you can see it actually, when this is the user we're targeting, it did capture the hash, but it's a previously captured hash because I did... this part of it on this VM. Is there a way in Responder to ignore or to still capture previous hashes? I'm sure there is. I've just never needed to do it. Capture previous hashes Responder. Does anyone know the syntax at the top of your head so that we still capture the hashes? Oh. So we might be able to find the hash here. User, let's check this out. What up, Simnatic? Thank you, my friend, for your hash here you sent my way. So this one right here, maybe? Oh. Oh, this is all try hack me stuff. This is moniker link. Okay. Oh wait, I'm on the wrong I'm confusing myself, guys. I'm looking at the logs, but not on my C2 server here. So I'm actually gonna stop responder here, and then we'll CD to that. And now if we go ahead and cat our NTLM, geez, which one would it be? Is it this one? Let's check this one. Yeah, so here it is. Here's the SAM security PC. Although we'd love to be able to actually capture it here. Option-V might do it. Let's give that a shot. I want to see if we can actually capture it like the way I wanted to in the first place. Let's try that. Responder. We could do H and then grep. Should be. So analyze allows you to see that request without responding. Network interface to use. Poison all requests. Returns a basic. Enable answers. Increase verbosity. You think that'll do it? Maybe clear the log. How do I even clear the log in responder? Do I just delete those log files? Oh, here we go. I just saw delete. So this file right here. Responder.db. Find here, name. What is the, well, we'll just try that. Oh, here it is, responder.db. So I just need to delete that. All right, let's try this again. I have to send the email to our user again. We'll just pretend like they're really dumb and they're going to click it again. And but we'll do sudo responder-I at the 0. All right, feel free to send in your hashes again. I'm going to email Sam again. Sam Olsen. All right. We'll pretend like Sam Olsen didn't see the first email. All right, send in your hashes if you guys want to send them in. Here's our public IP, 20.62.43.254. Send them all in. That's how real hackers do it. They just go on Twitch and capture hashes. I guess I should make sure it works. Yep, okay, cool. We're capturing hashes now. Beautiful. We'll see if we get Sam to connect again. Should work. I guess if not, it's because Sam wisened up to our attempt. But we did see the hash attempt to come through. I can always go back to the logs and grab the hash there. But wanted to see if we could see it happen live as it happens. Check out chat. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Refresh LinkedIn. Nothing there. Somatic said, give V a try. I'm just curious. Pretty should do it. Might depend on responder version. Oh, shoot. Well, I already deleted the database, so it's probably not a good test. Come on, responder. You guys send me some hashes. At least I want something to watch on my screen as I wait for Sam to attempt my little Excel update process. So far, we just have CyberGuard here. Whoever CyberGuard is. Hey, there's Sam. So that's what it should look like. We have Sam at the security PC attempting to update their Excel, and it sent us their NTLM v2 hash. So we can go ahead and copy this hash now. There's Simnatic. Thank you, Simnatic, with love. Appreciate you sending that over. But we'll go ahead and copy this hash. I'll leave that open for a little bit. Y'all can keep sending your stuff if you want. So here we go. Pwned lab cd phishing, and we'll do nano sam hash.txt. And now if we do hashcat-h grep ntlm v2. Okay, so 5600 I think is the mode. So hashcat-m for mode. If you're new to hashcat, that's just the mode. And sometimes, honestly, hashcat will try to auto-detect. So first, let's just see if it will auto-detect the hash type. And then for wordless, I always get John and hashcat confused. Do we just specify our word list this way? Okay, so you can see, even without specifying the mode, as I said before, at least the most recent version of hashcat will attempt to auto-detect the mode, which it did. It successfully discovered it was NTLM v2. We'll give it a second. Let's check out our C2 server. Anyone else sending stuff? No, we just have Simnatic and CyberGuard. Thank you all for the fun stuff. And look, we already cracked the password. So sorry for y'all on stream. I'm going to go ahead and shut that down. Although, Simnatic, I will go ahead and entertain your thought. Let's see what happens. So Simnatic, go ahead and do Simnatic with love again, and we'll see if it shows us your hash. Since we already have it, it should say, hey, it's already been captured, but if the -v mode still shows hash, we'll find out for sure if you try to send it again. I guess I could too. Yeah, okay. Yo, Simnatic is right. So anyone else is doing this, you can actually re-get the hash by doing -v for verbose mode, and it will go ahead and capture it that way as well, and it will continue to show the captured hashes. So thank you, Simnatic, for pointing that out. Appreciate it. All right, now I am going to go ahead and stop this. And to save money, I don't believe we need this virtual machine anymore, so we're going to go ahead and turn it off. To save money, I don't want Azure to charge me. In the chance that we do need it, we'll go ahead and turn it back on. But for now, I think we're good to go by turning it off. But we have our hash and we cracked it, which I didn't grab a screenshot of that. If we were taking notes, it would have been good to take a screenshot of the hash being captured by responder, but I'm recording it on video, so I can always go back and find it. But we do have the password right here of the Dark Knight. So let's go ahead and capture this password. So we have Sam Olson at megabigtech.com and username the Dark Knight. So we have some valid email and credentials. All right, y'all. This is just the beginning of the lab. This is initial access. You guys tell me, isn't this lab pretty cool? Like there's some CTFs. It reminds me a little bit of like the Red Team Capstone and Try Hack Me, but I've seen. Gosh, I don't actually think I've done any CTFs where I actually use Gmail to send a phishing email and set up my own C2 server in the cloud with Azure in order to do that. So really cool, I think. Like, I just, this blew me away when I was working through it. Like, how does it do this? Yeah, Simnatic, it does. Pwned Labs has a bunch of stuff like this, and actually what they're releasing soon is called Thunderdome. Thunderdome is going to be like a Red Team challenge network. I think it's 6 or 9 flags, but it's going to be a mix of like on-prem and Azure and GCP and AWS. So like all 3 of the king cloud platforms and working your way through it. So the cool thing I've noticed about Pwned Labs is there's no CTF-y puzzly stuff. All of it's very, very realistic and up to date. Does Azure charge for the public IP if the machine is shut off? You know what? I actually think they do. Good call. So you're right. I think Azure does charge for the public IP. So let's go ahead and remove this because I don't want Azure sending me money. We're going to delete our public IP. What? Oh, I have to unallocate it from the resource. All right, I'll do that later. I'm not going to spend stream doing that. But good call. I would have to research it, but I think Azure does charge for the public IP. So if you're following along, you'll want to go ahead and delete your public IP so that you don't get charged for that. That's how cloud stuff try to get you on this. But okay, we have our hash right there. Let's go ahead and try to log in. I'm going to close some of this other stuff out. We'll keep GPT open. And I'm going to go and open a new tab, new private window in particular, Azure Login. We'll do sign in. And let's just see if we can sign in as this user. Sam Olson. Oh, wrong window. At megabigtech.com. We'll go over to this, the Dark Knight. Copy that. Paste it in, hit sign in. Okay, so it looks like we may have gotten signed in. We'll hit yes to stay signed in. Do I have a coupon code? Hey, guys, I actually do have a coupon code. Was going to share it on Discord later, but if you want a premium sub to Pwned Labs, I can get you 15% off. Okay, let me check the coupon code real quick. This will be the first time I share it. I was going to do an announcement on Discord later, but yeah, if you want a premium is only $20 a month, and take that by a year. It's super affordable compared to other like cloud platforms. But I do have a coupon code that will give you 15% off premium. Let me go ahead and grab that. I just have to look back at my message history with Ian, the founder, CEO, dude. Really, really nice guy. Where did he send it to me at? Hold up. I'm going to give you guys this coupon code. All right, I have it. Here is the coupon code. I can't say coupon, whatever it is. If you go and sign up for a premium account and on checkout use Work Smarter, Pwned Labs, you will get 15% off. All right, so showing it to you guys. I'm going to announce it on Discord later. But if you want 15% off Pwned Labs, this was just created today, so it should be valid for you. If you have any issues using it, just DM me, let me know, and I'll get it figured out for you. But if you use Work Smarter X Pwned Labs, you will get 15% off your Pwned Labs subscription. So do it. Go get it. Hopefully you have that. I'll go ahead and just drop this in the chat as well. In case you miss it, I'll drop in the chat on all three platforms. And yeah, the Discord, good call. I will go ahead and grab a link to the Pwned Labs Discord and drop that as well. I'm just going to share my face for a second because I don't know if I'm logged into Discord. The Discord I was actually going to drop it in, though, is the Work Smarter Discord. But I was going to invite people to the Pwned Labs Discord, so I'll go ahead and drop a invite link real quick to the Pwned Labs Discord. Come join. Tell them Tyler sent you. But there's the link for the Pwned Labs Discord, so come join in there. But here we go. We are logged in as Sam Olson at megabigtech.com, and we can see, okay, Sam had a recent resource of a logic app. Now, logic apps are sort of like Lambda functions if you think of AWS. And one thing I discover all the time in AWS pen tests, and when I say all the time, I mean like almost every pen test, I'll discover sensitive things such as access keys or credentials or AD creds, whatever it is, being stored in the code of Lambda functions. And it's the same thing we often run into with logic apps. You can find sometimes some sensitive stuff being shared in the code. So if we go over to Logic App Code View, I believe is what it is. We can look at the underlying code for the Logic App. And actually, yeah, here it is. We have some authentication to a website. Can we actually go to this website? Nope. But we do have some possible credentials here. So for our notes, let's go ahead and take a screenshot of this. And we'll highlight this authentication right there. Control C. And we'll want to go ahead and grab that in clear text as well, just so I don't have to try to type from a picture. not clear text, just regular text rather. Okay, so we have this username. Right, so we have Sunita, not with caps lock, Sunita Williams, probably at megabigtech.com with the password I need a holiday. Don't we all? Don't we all, Sunita? You're really going to need a holiday when we compromise your account. Let's go ahead and check out Sunita's account. I'm going to sign out here. And let's use another account and see if we can sign in as Sunita at megabigtech.com. Oh, I go to the right one. And we'll grab Sunita's password. I need a holiday. Jeez. And we are authenticated, but there doesn't seem to be too much we can do. Try to view account. We could also log in on the command line or attempt to. Oh, and Brandon just got an annual sub. Yo, Brandon, welcome to the Pwned Labs crew. Glad that you got an annual sub there. Let's try to sign into like their email. All right, so Sunita Williams. Click the right thing. Boom. Okay, we're signed into the email. And what do we have here? We have another account and some other stuff. Let's check out this email. From Sam, who we compromised. Hi, Sunita. Got a reminder about having to take the phishing training again. Do I have to do it? It's a month, a year, and I forgot my password for the portal. Yes. Yes, you have to. Sam to Sunita. There was nothing for less than $3,000 a night. Oh, wait. Hey, Sam, just got back from the trip. I submitted my expenses. I had to reset my password for the expenses system. If you see a large expense for the hotel, it's because nothing else is available. For $3,000? What kind of hotel was she staying in? And we have this, Sunita Adam, and then we have her password. So Forsaken has a question. What if Sunita had two-step verification on? So actually in the official walkthrough, I'll show you this. There's some ways we can bypass MFA because Sunita does have MFA turned on in some areas. Like let me check. There's actually a tool called, I think it's called MFA Sweep. I just always try naturally the console first. But if we try to log in as Sunita, I think here, so if we do like connect AZ account, we go to add another account and we'll go ahead and do our Sunita user. But basically this is a cool part, and I apparently bypassed it with my weird way I'm doing the lab just by using the console, and then I didn't think that was going to work. I didn't think it was going to let me just log into her email. I didn't do this the first time I was doing it. Like I told you, I went through this lab once, but when I try to do it myself, I always try to think of alternative ways to accomplish the lab, and this would be an alternative way to do it. But in the official walkthrough, you actually grab Sunita Williams' I think access token or refresh token, and then you can actually download emails with the cool script. So I'll show you that way. Even if I complete the lab my way, when we go back through the walkthrough, I'll show you another way of doing some of these same things. Like I said, it's always good to know more than one way. So there you can see, we can actually connect to her account via PowerShell here, because you can see she has MFA turned on. But one common misconfiguration you'll see in the real world is MFA will be turned on for some resources, but not all resources, just by a misconfiguration or a mistake by the system admin who enabled it. So you can see we have MFA here, but we didn't have MFA when we hit our email. Very interesting. So I'll show you some stuff when we get to the official walkthrough. on ways to bypass that if MFA is enabled, but apparently I can just log in as their email and we have some credentials right here. So we're going to copy those credentials down and we'll drop it there. But I do want to take a screenshot of where I found this because once again, if we were doing a pen test, we want to make note of like, yo, we have bad password practices here. We'll grab a screenshot of this so we have access to their email and go ahead and do this. Right, there's that email there, and actually I wanted that up here. There we go. So Sunita, which seems to be ADM is often a thing used for admin account, so we might have some interesting permissions with this admin account. And one thing I always check in Azure, especially when you get access to an admin account, is what kind of secrets you might be able to read. So one way we can do that is there's a tool, I believe it's microburst, right? Which we already enabled microburst, or is it graph runner? I think it's microburst, but I need to read the docs. Let me read the docs real quick. Microburst wiki. AZ functions. How about this? Yeah, so anytime you get access to a privileged account in Azure, this is something I always try to run is just get AZ passwords if we can get authenticated, because it will go through, if we have a privileged account, it will check app services, storage accounts, Cosmo DB, container registries, key vaults, automation accounts, Azure Kubernetes service. It will go through all of these, and if it can identify any other credentials or sensitive information, it will pull it down for us. But first, let's see if we can go ahead and authenticate with these credentials. So we'll try connect AZ account. Maybe MFA is not enabled for this admin account because it's kind of account out of the ordinary. Maybe it's used for scripting. Maybe it's not something people normally log into. So maybe MFA isn't enabled. So let's go ahead and grab this. Go here. That at megabigtech.com. And we'll grab our password. Security. Good password. Boom, we have access to it now. If we run get AZ passwords, there we go. And we do want to confirm like, hey, if this is a real pen test, we're actually attacking the right tenant, which we are. So that's the tenant that is in scope, because remember their Azure stuff is all in scope. And we'll go ahead and hit OK. Fingers crossed that we find something good. Boom. So from Key Vault, you can see the vault right here. There's a vault called MBT admins. We have the flag, and then we have some global admin credentials. So this would, will this actually work? Can I log in as a global admin on this tenant? So global admin, for those of you who don't know, Azure is kind of like the domain admin equivalent, but in the cloud, but we do have the flag here. So we'll go ahead and grab our flag value. Go over here. I may have to re-authenticate. Yeah. It times out on me. I think my IP is sus. Yeah. Cloudflare doesn't like me. I apparently do too many bug bounty type stuff without doing it behind a VPN. And it's like, yo, Tyler, you look like you're a hacker. What are you doing, bruh? There we go. And there we go. I have the final flag. I completed the lab, but there's a lot more stuff to dig into, a lot of alternative ways of doing some of the same stuff. And I also want to see, can I actually log in as a global admin on this tenant? So let's give this a shot. If I go back over to Azure here and we'll say sign in with a different account, we'll use another account. What if I use where is that? That was Windows, right? So MBTGA, so global admin at megabigtech.com. Okay, no. So that's just there as a POC showing like, hey, this would lead to full compromise as a global admin. You can't actually log into the tenant as the global admin, which makes sense. But we do have the final flag there. Another way we could have found it is from the actual terminal here. Or not terminal, rather the console, the GUI console. We could have found it that way as well. It just would have taken more time, whereas Microburst automates it and looks for all secrets and all possible passwords in the account. Grab security here. Paste that in, sign in. And we have key vaults. I bet that MBT thing, yeah, MBT admin's right there. Go to keys. Oh, there's no keys available. Secrets. Oh, there we go. So we have our flag right there. And then, of course, our global admin cred. So what Microburst did is it just automated that process for us, pulled down all the secrets, and we were able to complete the scenario. So cool, y'all. Honestly, I'm curious in chat. Has anyone seen a cooler cloud CTF than that right there? GA would probably work through Azure CLI. Let's try it. I don't know. Like I said, I don't even know if that's a valid account or not, but we could try it. Let's do, I think it's AZ. AZ account. Hold up. Let me do it in Linux. Do I not have it installed? Oh no, of course I don't. This is a brand new VM. I don't even have the AZ CLI installed on here. Let me get this installed. AZ. Or can I do? No, okay. I'm pretty sure in Linux it's just AZ Connect. Hold up. Where's GPT at? Connect to Azure account from AZ. AZ login. Gosh, I'm dumb. Someone was yelling at their computer like, yo, Tyler, you're a freaking noob. It's AZ login. You're right. So actually what I want to try, we'll try it a few different ways. I want to try to do it this way. Can I do... Can I pass it the actual username here? Will that bug out? The user does not exist in this directory. To sign in, the account must be added to the directory. Okay, let's try AZ login. We'll try it this way. I'll try it a few different ways before I fully give up on my account that I don't think is actually there, but we'll see if it works. Use another account and oh, not that. It was what, GA. How do I not even remember the global admin account, yo? It's super simple. MBT-GA. Wow. Come on, Tyler. And I keep getting confused on my different things. Yeah, it's not going to let us log in. Oh, well. I don't think it's a valid account. Ian will tell me later whether or not it's valid, I'm sure. And if it is, I'll let you guys know. But I think it's just there to show, hey, you could go to global admin. Because if they give us global admin, the mega big tech tenant is used throughout Pwned Labs. If we have global admin, I'm assuming like even just as a CTFer, we might be able to cause some damage. Maybe. I don't know for sure. I don't know how it's all sandboxed, but we did complete the lab. So let's go ahead and I'll show you guys the way I did it was actually quite a bit different than the official walkthrough. So let's go through the official walkthrough and we'll identify some of the things I did differently. So our real world context, I do want to read through this. Network perimeter security has improved a lot over the years, although it can still be found wanting, and arguably in the cloud is an IAM perimeter. Those are the user accounts. Threat actors have instead turned their attention to the human element and social engineering employees as a way to leak sensitive data or gain a foothold within an organization. In this evolving arms race, admins have increasingly been implementing MFA as a way to protect identities. However, as with all things admin, there are many options in how MFA can be configured. And remember, I said one of the issues is MFA was configured for that one account when we authenticated, I believe it was via PowerShell Connect AZ account, but it was not configured I could just log into their email. And this can leave gaps in the defenses that threat actors can exploit. Token abuse is also a very real issue, and this lab explores some of the factors that make this possible. Here's what I didn't have to do. I kind of bypassed the token abuse by just trying to log in, but the token abuse, when I did it initially, I learned a lot through that process. So I do want to also share with you that token abuse. Like we'll redo aspects of this lab doing the token abuse. Do I have AZ on here now? I don't want to upgrade. We'll see if we can get away with not upgrading. So these are all things that I kind of did. Here was trying to figure out the name. Remember, we used that script to do it. Then we used that bash script to append at megabigtech.com at the end, and we found our valid user. It explains a little bit about the NTLM authentication that we did for the phishing attack. And here's the key. This is fully hands-on, and we're not on the same local area network as the target user's PC. We'll need to stand up our own server to be accessible on a public IP. In our scenario, we can use a VM from any cloud service provider for this. However, in real life, and this is kind of what I shared, as the company uses Azure, then the Azure cloud IP ranges may have been allow listed, and traffic from the workstation to Azure may also be expected and be less likely to raise alarm. Or if you use DigitalOcean or even AWS, it might not work, but since we're using the Azure IP ranges with our Azure VM, we're able to bypass possibly some of that security. We use responder, right? You guys saw that. I mean, you sent your own hashes to my responder. I think we got good practice with responder. And sending our email, right? This was a notice of legal action. Sam, this is the final notification, unpaid invoices, go invoices. So similar to what I did, I just used different writing. And there's a back-end script. This is actually really cool because I was asking Ian, like, dude, how does this actually work? But there's a back-end script that is reading these emails, saving them as .text files, and then parsing out the IP, and then scripting it out to trying to go to whatever the IP is. And that's how we're getting that hit on the back end. Because I told Ian, if it doesn't work, you're just going to have to, at 3 a.m. your time, manually click the email. So, but it did work. It worked fantastic. Had no issues at all. And we copy the hash. Of course, we crack it with RockU. Now, like I shared, you don't even have to specify the module. Hashcat attempts to auto-detect it first, and it does successfully auto-detect this hash. You can just hashcat, pass it the hash, give it rocku.text, and it will crack it. And then they, in the official walkthrough, used that user finder again and just did kind of a password spray, but just on one account to see if we could log in. I literally just went to the console and attempted to log in, and it worked. But notice it says valid password, MFA is enabled. So let's read through this. Our target user is using the same password for this computer as for their Microsoft account, super common. It reports that MFA is enabled. However, MFA enablement doesn't mean that everything is protected by MFA. All right, that's key. Azure administrators can also set conditional access policies, the fine-tune MFA policies, and often this fine-tune policies leave gaps that can be exploited. A great tool that can check for MFA enforcement is MFA sweep. We can directly execute it using a download cradle, or alternately download to the file system and execute it from there. So I can actually show you guys this. If we go over to my Windows VM here and go to PowerShell, get out of this. CD MFA sweep, import module, MFA sweep.ps1. Okay, it's not going to copy because, you know, Windows hates me. All right, you guys saw me hit copy. There we go. And so it's going to try to authenticate. and it will tell us whether or not MFA is in use. So it's in use on the Graph API. I'm going to give it a second. So let's go through this a little bit slower. I apologize that it looks so grainy. I don't know if it's Remina that's doing that. But on the Graph API, MFA is in use. The Azure Service Management API, MFA is in use. It tried to log into the 365 web portal with Windows User Agent. Now that's odd, and that might be a false positive because I was able to do that. Like I literally just logged into their email and authenticated using a mobile user agent. Checking MFA now. So interesting. The iPhone mobile user agent worked. These failed. I have a feeling these are false positives because I did it myself. Granted, I logged in with the Linux user agent and it didn't test that. Maybe it should have tested a Linux user agent. And then single factor, it says everything failed. But once again, I think those are false positives just from this tool. Let's see what the official walkthrough says. The Azure CLI can sometimes be excluded and also worth testing, but we're denied this time. The example though shows how it's possible to exclude certain authentication endpoints from MFA enforcement in Azure conditional access policy. In this case, the Microsoft admin portals. So it's also worth trying is the Azure portal, which is what I did right away. And we got in and compromised the user. I just by nature try to do that first because I'm a noob and I like to use the GUI right away. And of course, we see that logic at which we found. They clicked versions to find different versions. I literally just went straight to the code, like the actual code itself, and I found those same credentials, so a little bit different the way I did it. And we, of course, have those credentials again for that user. They used O365 User Finder to do it, and then they checked MFA being enabled again. So it's worth noting that this is the output displayed for the following conditional access policy. Oh, so look. This is why it worked for us. So let's actually try this. I logged, like I said, remember I said, oh, Linux isn't on there? So the conditional access policy enforces MFA for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, Windows Phone, but not Linux. So let's see if we can actually log into that account from Linux. Like remember, I just logged into the, here, I'm going to open a private tab. I logged into the user's email and we found that information. I wasn't prompted. I bet if I do it from this Windows machine, it will actually prompt me for MFA. Using Linux was a little bit of a bypass that I accidentally stumbled over without realizing it. We'll grab our password. I need a holiday. Oh, go to the Windows VM. Look at that. So that was, I bypassed it on accident. It's checking for a Windows agent, but they didn't configure it for Linux. So if you try to log into their email from Linux, it actually works. That's what it's saying. The conditional policy for MFA might be misconfigured, and therefore you're able to bypass MFA. Very cool, and that's what I ended up doing on accident. In testing, the device platform condition seems to not be very reliable. Microsoft actually recommended against this purely because it's on the user agent, which, you know, we can literally change ourselves. It is worth implementing your own policies and see the output of various tooling. We can try logging in using the Azure CLI with the username and password, which works. So this was the interesting part. If it would have blocked us on Linux, we could do it this way. So I'm actually going to walk through this part with the room because someone in chat, I think it was it the Funhouse? Someone in chat said, what if MFA is enabled? And it is enabled, as you can see, but it's not enabled for Linux. But what if it was enabled for Linux, but it wasn't enabled for the CLI, right? So this right here. See if we can authenticate via the CLI, which we are able to authenticate via the CLI. And from here, we can do some cool token type stuff. And I'm just going to read through this because I'm still like trying to wrap my head around this myself, to be honest. It says another great thing about the AZ CLI from a red team perspective is that it provides a great way to get our hands on a refresh token. We can obtain our current access token using AZ command get access token, which looks something like this. right? You can see our access token there, which is a JWT or a JOT, however you want to say it. In Azure and other OAuth 2.0 based systems, access and refresh tokens play critical roles in managing and maintaining authentication and authorization. At a high level, the important differences between them are below. So an access token is used to grant access to a protected resource like an API, access a proof of authorization. They're short-lived, they're sent with HTTP request, and it's the JOT or the JWT. But the refresh token is used to obtain a new access token. They are generally longer lived than access tokens that can last from hours to days or even indefinitely, depending on the system's config and policies, and they are exchanged with the authentication server for a new access token. Almost makes me think of like if you compromise a KRBTG account in some ways, that you can forge your own tickets in Active Directory. It's almost like with the refresh token, you can forge your own tickets for that particular user for other Azure services. Right? For red teamers, an access token being used only for a specific scope. So access token can only be used for a specific service, like I said, but a refresh token, we can give ourselves access tokens. So kind of like AD, we can give ourselves tickets for other servers. Well, with a refresh token, we can give ourselves tickets or access to email or other things that might be blocked by MFA. So this is one way that we can actually bypass MFA. If we can authenticate via the AZCLI, get a refresh token, we can bypass MFA and read email. Really is amazing. All right. So on Mac and Linux, the AZCLI access and refresh tokens are stored in plain text, which is what we need. On Windows, they're stored there, but encrypted using DPAPI. You could decrypt that. You can also install an older version, but we're on Linux, so I should be able to just grab it. ls cd home Tyler Azure, and it's this one, right? Yeah, so here we go. Here is our refresh token right here, and here's our secret. That's the information that we're going to need. Let's go back to the lab. And it says there's a few tools. This is so cool, y'all. Like when I was doing this really blew my mind that you can bypass MFA with this weird token juggling stuff using this Token Tactics V2. So let's read about this a little bit. Azure Access Tokens allow you to authenticate to certain endpoints, right? If you're in position of a refresh token, you get access tokens to all known endpoints, right? So we can bypass MFA on other services if we get that refresh token. Crazy. And so let's go ahead and grab this in Linux. We'll cd over to home, Tyler, Pwned Labs, phishing. Oh, git clone, rather. And now PWSH is to open PowerShell in Kali. So we're going to open up PowerShell here. We'll import module, just like in Windows. Token tactics dot, is it PSD one? All right, there we go. So we have that imported. Let's go back over to the walkthrough and understand what's going on here. Oh, I did PSD one. Hopefully it doesn't break. So email can be a gold mine for red teamers, so let's start there, which I thought as well, and I just logged into their email. But if MFA was enabled, this is one way that we could bypass this. So the refresh to MSF Graph tokens can help us create an access token for Microsoft Graph for our refresh token. Remember, we saw that MFA was enabled for Microsoft Graph, but this way we can bypass MFA. So we literally just pass it our refresh token. So we can do this here. Go back over to here. So we want to do invoke refresh to MS Graph token, domain megabigtech.com, refresh token, and we'll give it that refresh token from above. This right here, I believe. Boom. Okay, beautiful. It worked. And then our new access token be accessed with this. So just MS Graph token, access token. So we can go ahead and try that. Yeah, there it is. So we have an access token now. Using this Python script, we can try to download email. I'm telling you guys, this is amazing. Let's go ahead and grab this script and I'll show it to you. So it's going to take our authentication token. We're going to paste that in there, and it's going to authenticate via the Microsoft Graph API. And then you can see, like, if there's a 200 response, we're just going to download all the emails. And then we could search those emails for sensitive information. So let's go ahead and grab this from up here. Copy that. And we'll drop it, our token, in here. I'm going to save it. Yeah, there, if you didn't get the 15% off, get it now. All right. See if we can run it. And look at that. We downloaded all those emails, y'all. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. So now if we cat out our Sunita admin, that was that email with those creds. You can see that Sunita admin password. So we could have got the password there. And by doing it that way, you fully bypass MFA by juggling these tokens, getting a refresh token, and then creating your own access tokens to the Microsoft Graph API, and then downloading the emails that way. Y'all, that blew my mind. And I'm still wrapping my head around that, but that's one way that you can like truly bypass MFA if you're able to get access via the CLI and get that refresh token if they configured their conditional policy incorrectly. Absolutely amazing. Which we did that via the email. We did it this way as well. So I demonstrated it both ways. And then our admin account, of course, can go ahead and authenticate. They did get AZ resource like manually, and they found the key value. I used microburst and just get AZ passwords to search for all of them, and we had the flag. So let's read about defense. In terms of defense, the MFA sweep activity is quite noisy and will show up in the Entra ID sign-in logs. Do I have access to these? Oh, this is going on this is my actual account. Let's see if I go copy, link, and we'll go to this one right here. Oh no, I don't have access. So a real admin account would have access to it. You'd be able to see that, and you could see it a little bit on your own account if you pull it up. But you can see that Sunita Williams there. We can also get failed sign-ins from the command line using the PowerShell command like that. And of course, if you have a SOC or any type of software, it should be ingesting this and maybe spawning an alert when you get this many failed sign-in attempts, right? And pulling in IPs, and then you can see if the IPs are sus. We can always use Sentinel KQL to identify indicators of malicious activity, which we can see there. I need to do some more of the blue team labs on Pwned labs. Like, I'm a pen tester, so I don't do too much of the blue team stuff, but I wanna learn blue team a little bit better. So Mega Big Tech could have prevented this kill chain in multiple ways. Remember, defense in depth. Users will make bad trust decisions, and although awareness training will help, the system should be designed to take into account that bad trust decisions will be made and prevent them. Like Jerry always says in Simply Cyber. Carl, right? There's always going to be Carls. A quick and easy win would be to prevent workstations from sending NTLM traffic to remote servers. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, that would prevent that type of phishing, but there's a lot of other phishing attacks that we could have done for initial access. This Microsoft article outlines the group policy setting that can be configured and the various settings that are possible from allow, audit, deny, and allow. There are probably no reason in the majority of cases why you would need NTLM traffic sent over the internet. Additionally, the other thing I would add is just enforcing strong password settings. So we know that this is the password for Sam's computer. And if you can imagine for Sam's computer, it's likely connected to an AD, Active Directory. You could have done a password audit. You could have compared password hashes against known breached passwords from Rocky.txt and other lists, and just doing a basic password audit, and any users that are using breached passwords, requiring them to change those passwords, because if the password isn't previously breached, it's going to be a lot harder for an attacker to crack it. Now, they could do permeations and stuff like that, but once again, going to be a little bit more difficult if you enforce a little stricter password policies here. The MSA policies were also found to be quite lax, which is true. If they had MFA enforced on every single service, that would have stopped me in my tracks, at least initially. I would not have been able to get access. It would be better to implement trusted devices and locations instead of allowing anyone from the internet with valid credentials from being able to authenticate and interact with Azure. Finally, storing credentials in emails and other user productivity tools is never a good idea. Productivity tools and services such as Outlook and MS Teams are an attractive target for threat actors and potentially also allow for further social engineering. Absolutely. Let's check out some of these blogs. We'll just quickly skim through them. So, token tactics, how to prevent, detect, and respond to cloud token theft. So, users accessing corporate devices, remote work. These unmanaged devices have weaker security controls. Publicly available open source tools for exploiting token theft already exist, which is what we kind of have done to bypass MFA. And it's explaining, like, yeah, having these tokens being stolen is going to be a big deal. And you can actually see, we see the attack path kind of here, be it the phishing email, stealing stuff there. And attacker replay session token with MFA check completed. That would be another way to bypass it. So just a lot of bypasses here. And talking about how to protect it. Reduce the lifetime of a session, implement conditional access policy, all kind of things we've talked about. What's this? Hacking your cloud. So this talks about token tactics. This will not get into phishing operations, but we'll assume for the moment we were able to do device code phishing to a low-end user for an enterprise organization, which is another way we could do phishing. I might have to play around with that. I've done that kind of in my own lab with, I think GraphRunner has tools for that. And you can actually set up like a malicious Microsoft app, and when the user signs in, you can steal their access token. Road Recon, which I've demonstrated Road Recon in past YouTube videos, getting different information, email extraction. You can do that actually with GraphRunner, I think. This will populate your token in the Python script. So kind of demonstrating what we did. So cool. Very realistic attack path as well. I'm walking through it a little more in depth. Would encourage you to check this out on your own if you would like. But yo, these labs on Pwned Labs are amazing. So once again, if you don't have a sub to Pwned Labs, you need to get one. It is well worth your time, well worth your money, but we successfully completed this lab. Phished for initial access. Really hope you found it helpful. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and learning alongside of me. But this is the end of this video, but I assure you I come out with videos like 5 times a week, so there'll be more in YouTube. But thank you for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one.